I guess we need an intro. Let's go.
Hey, what's good, everybody? Welcome back to the podcast, Entrepreneur 360 podcast. Back with Shaun Els out in the UK. If you're watching this on video, I'll give you 3 seconds to just guess who's in the UK autumn and who's in the South African spring. Shaun often shaves his face, not today, but it's getting cold outside.
Got to keep myself secure and safe, bro.
Yeah. Look, us in South Africa, we feel for you, bro. And I can't even complain. Like when I was living in LA, I went from one like winter, Johannesburg winter to another Johannesburg winter, so it wasn't even that cold. Yeah, guys, welcome back to the podcast. Do us a favor before we get started, if you can, please do us a huge favor and just like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. It is at the moment the only way that the podcast gets out. We're not really promoting the podcast anywhere else, so please share this with anybody you feel might need some support in what we're going to discuss. Essentially today we're kind of discussing what's become the sort of business coach element of the podcast. Haven't given it a really cool name just yet, but I'm sure we will at some stage. But for those who don't know, Shaun is one of South Africa's most successful entrepreneurs. He's now living in the UK, making his name, quickly becoming one of the most successful entrepreneurs in the UK. So, Shaun, give us a quick background in like what you're up to, and like exactly like 1 minute. What's the current business status? What are you doing? How's it going, etc.
Right. I prefer the striving to be one of the best entrepreneurs in South Africa. It's a heavy label to walk around with, Steve.
Yeah,
let's get that one.
I'm a heart man, bro. What can I say? I only have good things to say about my bros. So
yes, it can only go downhill from here, man. What am I up to? So Steve, I've just relaunched Autumn Winter 24. It's a brand called Jacket. We started working on this project about 2.5 years ago, and took about 18 months to come to fruition before we launched Autumn Winter 23, which was at the back end of last year. Primarily a winter-based brand. We specialize in down and outerwear, and we sort of move across from the UK all the way into Europe. We do a little bit of Asia and some of the States. So it's a pretty big endeavor. It's much bigger than what I'm used to. You know, I think I was very sort of South African focused and in that region, how that market works, and learning to adapt and trying to understand a completely new market with a very limited network, and just grinding it out on a day-to-day basis. So busy with this brand called Jacket. It's been a great success so far. It's got all those startup challenges that we look for, all of those little beautiful speed bumps that you hit really fast, and then you figure out how you're going to fix the vehicle while it's in the air and hope to land and keep moving forward the whole time. I think there's no better and more exciting and stressful time than the world of a startup, especially in the first couple of years. It's a wild ride.
Yeah. And just by the way, guys, for those, I'm laughing a little bit because for those who don't know, that Shaun's back and he says like this is a big endeavor for him. I'm sitting here laughing because I'm like, bro, you brought Super Dry to South Africa. You know, you've been like some pissy little brand, and you've started some epic businesses here in South Africa. So, but it's good, I suppose, to have that sort of cognizance about who you are and where you are. And to me, it just sounds like a dude who's really done epic things in one country and is now moving to the next level of success. So congrats on that. How are things going in the business? Like, as you said, it's a 2.5 year adventure. How are things going like as you stand right now?
Yeah, so we've just, like I said, relaunched. The weather's just turned cold a couple of days ago in Europe. When I'm talking cold, it went from 25 to about 18, and this morning I woke up to about 2 degrees. So it's a massive plunge overnight. And you start to watch your analytics and you see the stats of people driving towards your websites and the other platforms that we sell off. I'm very happy with the start. It's a long season. I was saying to you a bit earlier, it's a sort of a 5-month ramp up. And I think in the Northern Hemisphere, there's always a reason to have something with you. It's always cold, it's rainy, or it's chilly. And you need different adaptations of jackets in your wardrobe to facilitate whatever it is that you're going through. The South African me wouldn't have understood this. You know, I've done a lot of traveling in my years, but you never like South Africans. You've got one jacket, or you've got a couple of hoodies, and that's what it is that you have, and that's what you need. Northern Europe, the UK for that matter, some of the northern parts of the States, you've got different jackets for different times of the year. And I didn't realize this until I fell into this business opportunity, that need for outerwear is immense. It's massive.
Yeah.
And it's almost like what handbags are to ladies. Jackets are another one of those sort of status symbols. You know, what does the badge say? The badge determines the quality and the price points, and hence it kind of puts you in a state of, well, this guy knows what he's talking about, and you get that social credibility. So that's what we strive to achieve. The brand's pretty much it's a premium brand, but where we place ourselves in the market is we want to offer you more value than what you've paid for in a very premium way. So when you get your jacket, it's perfectly packaged, it's beautifully boxed up. It comes in a recyclable plastic cover, beautiful tissue paper with a handwritten letter in a beautiful box that you open up. And it's like Christmas presents for kids, right? Gotcha. Presentation is everything, and then the quality of the product to back up the whole, you know, the initial feeling of opening up a package and getting a beautiful piece. Which
I wouldn't expect anything else, knowing you my whole life, basically. Like, you're working with a super premium kind of product and brand. I mean, that, you know, that is the kind of dude that you are. To me, let me ask you a quick question, because just before we started, you were mentioning about, so I thought it's quite relevant to a lot of people in business and who are working either in their own business or even in, you know, entrepreneurs who are working for someone else. You're saying about you're starting to reach a stage now or a season in the business where you're starting to see the numbers go up, which is great, and you're starting to feel a little bit more calm about how things are going, which is great. But you also started personally to let go of a few things that you found yourself needing to let go of, because when you weren't letting go of them, it was maybe holding you back from going to that next level and taking the next level. What's that looking like? Just talk a little bit about that, because I think a lot of people can relate to that.
Yeah, so it's a tough one, because I think everyone's driven by certain motives. My thing, I think I've thought about this for years and years. What is the thing that really drives me? Is it ultimate success, or is it the fear of failure? And I think I'm driven by that fear of failure more than anything else. You know, waking up to nothing. You know, especially when you're in a rebuilding phase, you make progress quite quickly, but even though that progress happens quite fast, it feels irrelevant because there's so much going on. And sometimes you've got to take a step back and take stock and go, look, we've moved these little measures, and this seems to be looking up here and there, everywhere. And ultimately, your anxiety in startup businesses is something that you really have to sit back and manage. You have to put things into perspective. Everything's compounded when things aren't going great, right? So I was saying to you earlier, a little bit of bad news feels like, you know, you've lost a member of your family, and how you're going to deal with that. So I suppose you've got to have a hard reset every day. Yesterday was a bad day. Today's going to be better. And the only person that you're accountable to is yourself, right? Yeah. You have to be self-motivated. You get up every single day with a new objective in mind, and you plan your day accordingly, right? It's always about the bigger vision. You've got to have that big vision in play. That is your ultimate, that's your goal. That's where you want to get to. And how you go about getting there is everything. That's the journey. Who you choose to take along that journey with you is another very important thing, right? You could have people who are just not good for you, not good for the business. They talk a good game, talk about so much experience that they have in certain parts. And you quickly learn that, you know, trying to manage that person in a business that's offering its own stress is another nightmare. So I'll try to keep on track here. I think it's very much about, it's about rolling with the punches. You know, I think we're all scared of getting hit. And I think once you get hit, you realize that it's not as bad as you made it out to be. It's much, you know, it's much, getting hit is part of the process, is part of the game. And that's why I think there's a very simple saying is, if it was easy, everyone would be doing it. Yeah. And I definitely live by that motto.
Yeah. You just, I mean, dude, you just basically, as far as I'm concerned, and as far as I know, in terms of the definition, you just summed up the day-to-day life of an entrepreneur. In terms of life, you've got to keep pushing. You're accountable to yourself. Keep going. You can't stop. You've got to find the motivation to get out of bed in the morning. You've got to just keep doing it. So, and it sounds exactly like, as I said, I'm not surprised hearing it from you. Do you feel I mean, obviously, and as you said, I think as well, which is so interesting because you didn't come to talk to me and discuss about being in this podcast because of mindset or because of the mindset stuff that I'm sharing, but I think it just becomes part and parcel of what you're actually doing. And when you talk about letting go of the stuff that's holding you back, or the stuff that you don't want to change because it feels safe, but it's holding you back and not allowing you to get to that next level. It becomes it's quite a difficult thing to do, especially as we get older and we become set in our ways. But you've got to do it, man. And it's
sure.
not an easy thing to do, but once you start doing it, it becomes easier and easier and easier, don't you think?
It does. It gets easier. They say experience makes it easier for you, but it depends on the scale of the opportunity that you're trying to, conquer and accomplish. I'm a firm believer of taking accountability for everyone in your own business's actions, right? Because you put them there and they were given the task by you. And in order for them to do it, you put trust in them. And if things don't go wrong, there's always a lot of finger pointing and stuff like that. I take ultimate accountability for anything that goes wrong in my business. That way I know that we set a parameter or standards in the business that, if I am willing to take a knock with you, right? We fail together, we win together. And that's the way that I've learned to do things. I think in the past was very much about how much I can extract out of an opportunity by perhaps putting the right people in place to get that done. I've kind of taken a few steps back now, and ultimate accountability for your own actions is everything. And we apply that in our personal life too. Why didn't this go right? It was his fault. It was her fault. At the end of the day, it went right because you did. It didn't go right because you did something along the way that contributed to its downfall. So,
as the leader, as the dude who's in charge, it's up to you.
Absolutely, and that's where that fear of failure comes in. And it's not. A lot of people call it like a control freak, or this guy, he hangs on too tightly. That's not the case. I think it's very much a case of giving everyone the ability to show their true potential and believing in them and nurturing that out of them, right? And if things don't go wrong, you share in the failure together, but at the same time, the successes are much sweeter.
Yeah. It's so interesting you bring it up because I've actually recently gone through something so similar when you talk about taking that accountability. Excellent book. If you haven't read it, I would highly recommend it. It was given to me to read a couple of years ago, and I read it. It's called Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink, and I forget the other guy's name. But
Jocko's a boss. He's such a beast.
Yes, Brew. Like he's up there with, as far as I'm concerned, with the David Goggins of the world and that sort of thing. One of those. They come across as like these grumpy dudes who you wouldn't want to actually have a beer with, but they just spit so much truth and so much value. And that book was life-changing for me, I'll be honest. Like it really did. At the time when I read it, I wasn't ready to take on the messages of ownership because I wasn't in my own business. I wasn't taking ownership. I didn't need to take ownership. Someone else was paying a salary because I was like, whatever. But it all rang true for me. And only when I kind of went on this journey of entrepreneur, and I was like, cool. It's time to make your own mark on the earth and like go your own way and build your own future. Then I reread it and I was like, wow, dude, this is really interesting. And it's quite interesting because I've recently gone through something with the guy who gave it to me. And I discovered that all of the messages in the book of ownership and taking ownership and being there, exactly what you've been saying about. At the end of the day, it's up to you. You need to be accountable. If it went wrong, it was because something that you did as the owner of the business or as the leader of the business. And as I say, like it's so interesting how I just failed to see those values in that person as well, who was gave me the book to read, but like didn't apply and completely victim mentality around actually what went wrong in the business. So it's just so interesting that ownership piece and that accountability piece is so important because at the end of the day, I always say this in some of the early episodes. I always say, like, at the end of the day, no one actually cares, bro. It's up to you. It's on your neck. Right? You've got people who love you and people are around you who will support you. And as close to people as like your spouse or your kids or your father or your brother, they love you. They want the most for you, and they'll prop you up. But when you put your head on the pillow at night, that's your stress that you've got to deal with. That's your sleepless night that you've got to deal with. They're not going to have it for you. They're not going to wear it for you.
For
It's up to you. So that you got
For
to do
sure.
everything in that day to make sure that your head hits the pillow and goes to bed, and that you're not stressed about it.
Yeah.
Because you're on your own, right, at the end of the day.
It's
As
amazing.
sad as that is.
Yeah. Listen, you know what, you are 100% correct. You have to wear that. You have to be able to wear that in this type of business, in any startup. Just taking accountability for your actions. You made the move. You have to deal with the consequences.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
And it's amazing, books and stuff and words only really mean something when you're in the right space to accept them.
Yeah.
You could have read that book 3 times in different stages of your life and got different messages from the same words. I find that fascinating.
Yeah. I was, and it's so funny. Thank you for verifying it for me, because I really have been thinking about it recently, obviously, as this went down. And I was like, went down with this guy, and I was like taking stock of what went on. And I was like, so interesting, because when I read the book initially, I could see the value, but it meant nothing to me. It wasn't actually, my neck wasn't on the line. Only now that my neck's on the line and what I'm doing, and I'm taking ownership of my own destiny, and like being responsible for what I need to be responsible for, do those words that are that are out there and in that book, do they make sense to me? And I can go, hey, I can actually practically apply this. And I guess I would say this as well, because I think we tend to also recommend books to our friends and family as much as we can, and say, hey, dude, you got to read this book. It'll change your life. Don't get bummed when somebody doesn't read the book or doesn't take it on board. Recently, my brother-in-law, actually, I gave him that book, Extreme Ownership, to read. And I asked him, checked in with him this week. I was like, dude, how's the book going? He goes, no, I'm just giving it back to you. I'm not into it. He's not in a space where he's ready to actually take that book on. He's giving it back.
It's the same thing as advice, Stevie. We're doing this podcast, and I guarantee you 80% of people will say that's absolute bullshit. And it's that 20%. That's why we're doing this, right? It's that 20% that go, there's something in this. If I just listen to it again and I take away from it and I apply it to my own life, that's what it is. And it's the same thing with what it is that I'm doing. I know that not everyone's going to like what I'm doing. I have to accept that, right? I'm doing it for the people that want to invest in a piece of my brand. And I think along the brand journey it's filled with potholes and potential slip ups, and that's everywhere, and that goes for every business. I think at this stage of my life, you've got to look for an opportunity that has a scalable ability. So something that, if you invest 1 hour of your time, can you get 4 hours back of that, right? I think when we first start, it's investing 1 hour of your time to get 30 seconds back. And you've got to try and get that, maths to balance eventually, right? And that comes with years of being in it and trying. And, I've always followed my passions. I do what I want to do, and I sell what I'm really passionate about. And I've always done that. I've never done anything that I would have been done for financial cause. That's the benefit. That's great. That comes with, a long career. But it's, can I see myself doing this in 10 years' time? And can I be as enthusiastic as I am today about doing this in 10 years' time? Can I be more enthusiastic in 10 years' time? So I suppose carving out that scalability aspect and investing and it comes with different stages of your life. If you're 20, you've got a lot more time to give to a process than when you're 44.
You can be more patient with stuff as well.
You can be more patient. You can absorb all the lessons. You can write these things down. You can get in touch with your feelings. You go through all the emotions. I think as you get older, you go through that and you go, oh, there's a familiar feeling. Oh, it's more exacerbated this time. Why am I feeling more anxious than I was 10 years ago and 10 years before that? And I do think that we do label things in linear time. We look at it and we say, can I make this thing successful in 5 years? And I think when you're speaking to the 20-year-old me, can I make this thing successful over a 15-year period? So time is a very big factor in these sorts of things. And then I suppose we've got to get onto the subject of trying to raise capital for startups at some stage, which is another journey altogether, and how one should go about that, if at all. But I think there's a lot to carve out here.
Yeah, 100%, dude. Well, listen, guys, hopefully not hopefully, I know that will be of value to you. We like to keep these episodes super short and super punchy and super powerful. So Shaun, bro, thank you again as always for sharing with
My
us.
pleasure. My pleasure.
Bro, I feel a little bit, and I hope you don't mind me saying, I feel a little bit like we're documenting as much as we're documenting my entrepreneurial journey as I get into new things and try new businesses and try new projects, because they're not all businesses. I'm actually involved in a super fun and interesting project at the moment that has probably got the most potential to change the world, which is a big,
Can you tell us about it, or are you going to keep that close?
No, I've got to keep it a little bit quiet until early next year when we launch it. But fuck, dude, it's exciting. I'm very excited about it. But I feel like I'm documenting. We're in a year's time, we're going to look back at all these episodes and go, shit, look where Shaun's at, bro. And he's got this record of episodes of podcasts to document the literal milestones of what's going on. So, dude, thank you so much. I know we, as part of this, guys, please keep checking in on this part of the podcast, the business coach part of the podcast. Shaun and I are going to be doing other episodes where we've asked you guys to send in questions, and we've got a few questions in which are great. We'll be answering those questions and hopefully helping you guys to helping you guys run a little bit of a better business. As I said, please like, share, subscribe. The podcast only way it gets out. Share this with anybody who you feel is also in that journey of starting a business, in the middle of a business, and we'll catch you on the next one, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.